Okay, if you set up a trust, in most cases, you would be better off setting up what's called a revocable trust versus irrevocable trust, and there's several reasons. One reason is if you set up a irrevocable trust, it's actually treated as a separate entity. There's actually a separate filing on that. You have to file what's called a 1041 tax form. If you have trustees that usually outside yourself, they're going to try to charge you a lot for this. I'm going to go over steps with you. I think that will cut back a lot on your cost of setting up trust. I'll probably tell you some things contrary to what you've seen in the past. A lot of lawyers in the U.S. don't deal with international offshore trust. They really should, because the asset protection's better. The assets of the entity out of the jurisdiction of the U.S. We're not trying to hide anything like this, but the key thing is you want to pay your taxes and make sure you report everything. But the fact is if you're out of the jurisdiction of the U.S., it's going to be a lot easier to get things accomplished, and you don't have nosy people getting in your business abroad, because they're going to have to go by the laws that are in that other country, or they could be breaking the laws, the regulator. Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Trust, if you set up what's called a irrevocable trust as a separate entity, what happens is when you pull money out, it's all distributed as ordinary income. So even if there's a capital gains, actually property sold in the trust, when you disperse that money, it's all taxed as ordinary income. And usually ordinary income, depending on who's in office at the time that you do it and the tax laws at that time, usually ordinary income is higher than capital gains tax. What you want to do is you want to try to minimize taxes. You also want to get the best asset protection that you can get if you're going to set up one of these entities. One of the things not good about irrevocable trust is they are set up as a separate entity. When you pull money out, you hit high brackets, in other words, high tax rates at small amounts of money. To give you an example, you only have to pull out anything that's $14,451 plus anything over that, taxed at 37%. You see your brackets actually come in a lot earlier. One reason is most of the people that actually set these up are wealthy, so they know most cases the people that are behind this are going to be pretty well off people, so they're trying to take as much as they can from you. So you're looking at, that's a lot coming out, everything over only $14,451. That figure will change depending on the tax year that you're doing this. Also, folks, if you want to legally get around your income taxes and how to get a second passport as quick as 45 days, do 3 things. Hit the subscribe button at the right of your screen right here, and you get new videos automatically as they come out. And number 2 is I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And number 3 is go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and just ask for some help. What I would tell you to do is don't let a lawyer charge you a percentage rate on the assets under management. I was just talking to a client yesterday. A domestic lawyer was trying to get a domestic trust set up, and he wanted to charge him like 1% of assets. Now, let me give you an example of how this could be. You've got a $20 million estate, and a lawyer's trying to hit you with a 1% on assets under management. 1% of 20 million is 200,000 US. Now, you're getting 12% of that money in 6 years using the rule of 72, your money is going to double from 20 million to 40 million. And then if you're still paying 1% of asset fee to the lawyer, assets under management, you're looking at, instead of 200,000, and we're talking about 400,000. Folks, that's way too high. And then they have other fees on top of this. You don't want to go that route. You want to go with a flat rate. If you're getting someone as a trustee outside yourself. You get a revocable living trust, you can have yourself as a trustee, or you can have as an outside party to be a trustee. Depends on the type of trust you're setting up. We have a lot of people that have living trusts that are set up, and they're their own trustee of their living trust. Now, in fact, in most cases, that's going to be your best opt to do things that are domestically. Go internationally and you set up a trust for asset protection purposes, because you're not going to have that asset protection with a living trust, because technically you're filing that under your name in taxes. In other words, there's no 1041. It's filed on your tax form. It's basically you. What we're trying to do is show you how to cut back on the cost, and the way to do it is to go internationally with an offshore trust. Let me tell you why. The fees are actually typically lower than if you use a domestic lawyer, and I would advise you to use a lawyer that is licensed in the U.S. but also in that other jurisdiction. Why? Because look what happened with Trump's lawyer. Okay, they raided his lawyer. They will easily raid your lawyer's office in a minute. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. There is no privacy. Everybody thinks you got privacy if your records are with a lawyer. That's bullcrap. I had a client that came to me one time. This is before he came to us. When he came to us, he was telling me a story about the IRS was wiretapping his lines. And what happened was the line cut off, and the guy he was talking to cut off when the line cut off. Everybody was off the line, and he could hear the IRS talking on the phone, and then it cut off. These are the types of things that go through your trash cans, they'll go through your phone lines. The key is you should be reporting your taxes. Okay, I'm not trying to tell you not to report your taxes. I'm saying, because we're talking about asset protection, but I'm talking about you also have lawyers, greedy lawyers, try to spy on your stuff. Okay, really better off keep people from going through your trash cans to people. You ought to have a shredder, shred your documents before you put them in the trash can. Make sure the shredder is very good. I would be using encryption type services. Now, WhatsApp is pretty good encryption, but I think Telegram is even better. I would be using also sources like encryption emails like protonmail.com and also Zoho. I like Zoho better because you have a lot more storage for the free cost. You don't have to pay anything for either one of them. Your storage is a lot more on Zoho, www.zoho.com. That's another good one. If you want to set up a trust, I would advise you to set up what's called a Belize trust. Why? There's no zero statute of limitation period on it. It's in Belize, which is a different jurisdiction in the U.S. It's impossible to get through their court because as long as you make your money legally. If you're involved with drug trafficking, if you're involved with stealing money, that's totally different. I'm talking about making your money illegally and you get a lawsuit, the money's protected. Just as well in an IBC, LLC, or trust in Belize because the law states that. I've got other videos on that. I don't have time to be going through that. So the asset protection is just as good on any of those three. But now an offshore trust can do more things than an IBC or an LLC. But you're better off, as I put on other tapes, if you're going to go with Belize, go with an LLC versus an IBC because of tax issues and stuff like this. Again, you still have to pay taxes in the U.S. So anything I'm telling you in Belize is with Belize. If you're still a U.S. citizen, you're going to have to file your tax forms because you have to declare everything that's overseas. Onshore or offshore, it doesn't make any difference if you're a U.S. citizen. I do like Belize better than Cook Islands or Nevis Trust because there is a statute of limitation period of 1 year on those two countries. Also, if you need to go visit Cook Islands, it's like on the other end of the world. I'm going to tell you, in a lot of cases, you might have to go to that country. It's a long, long ways. Belize is like 2 or 3 hours, depending on where you are in USA. What you need to be doing is trying to make your stuff totally international. And I'm talking about get rid of Wyoming or thinking about doing it. Don't get Wyoming corporations, Wyoming LLCs. Don't deal with Nevada. Do everything outside the country. That's what I would be doing. There is no jurisdiction with any regulator in the U.S. going offshore unless you're dealing with criminal matters. That's different. They have treaties with these countries, so you do have concern with that. I'm talking about civil matters. Also should be using a lawyer that is licensed in another country, but also the U.S., but he's living abroad. That way, if his offices are raided, they won't be able to do it if his office is in Belize or in an offshore jurisdiction. There's a big story I'm reading about in International Living Sovereign Society, maybe around about 25 years ago, where the IRS visit to Belize. Make a long story short, they found out the IRS was over there. They led them back to the airport and scooted them out of the country. This is the advantage about having your stuff in a jurisdiction where the U.S. doesn't have, not just U.S., Germany, Australia. These are high-tax countries too that tax based on residency, on worldwide income. You want to declare your money. At the same time, you want to have your assets protected. Look at Cohen, Trump's attorney. His offices were raided. To date, they still haven't got anything on Trump. They're doing everything they can to try to get him. The fact is, they didn't find anything, but they still raided his office. If they raided Cohen's office, I can tell you, if you've got a lawyer, they'll raid your lawyer's office in the U.S. That's why you want to be having your stuff abroad. I would be sticking with, I like Belize because it has a zero statute of limitation period. Whereas the Cook Islands and Nevis have a 1 year statute period of limitation. That's a big key thing that you want to be looking at. I'll tell you something else too. Set up a company and you do it offshore. You can my advice is to go with a license type business because it's easier to set up a bank account. So what good is it if you set up an offshore corporation or an offshore LLC, but then you can't find a bank that will take your business because you're in gambling or you're involved with some sort of legal business, but it's risky business and the banks don't want to deal with it. Fewer and fewer banks now will take companies that are not licensed. So they want to see where you're licensed in a particular country. It's easier also to set up a bank in that jurisdiction where you're setting up your company, especially if it is a licensed company. Now, I'm not saying they won't take your business if you're not licensed in the same country where you're setting up your LLC or corporation, but I'm saying it's easier. If you want to know more on this, folks, go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and just ask for some help. And I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And again, we've got right at 900 videos. If you hit the subscribe button on the right of your screen right here, you get new videos automatically as they come out. And I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Take care.